Well, thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed for this, for these words. And, well, many thanks to all of the people that are involved in this symposium on natural fertility awareness. And now we have here the people that are going to be delivering their presentations in this first session of the afternoon. We know that it's not the right time of the day for this, but in any case, we are convinced that these excellent speakers are going to make everything marvelous. But before the speakers join us, I wanted to, well, say to you people that are there in person and following us online, I'm working from Madrid, and it's wonderful to share these minutes with you. And you can ask your questions through the website. There's a little section where you can write your questions, and I can organize the questions so that our speakers have enough time to entertain them and to answer them at the end of the session. Right then, well, let's kick off with this section, and the first presentation is going to be given by Jokin de Irala. Jokin de Irala has many things to say, because he's married, he's got 5 children, and because he has a very long professional track record. He's got a degree in medicine and surgery by the University of Navarra. He's got a master's degree in public health, a doctor in medicine, doctor in public health by the University of Massachusetts, where he also had the possibility of living for several years. And he's also, well, written scientific papers, 58 chapters, 156 articles, scientific interviews, and above all, he has the possibility of sharing with adults and youngsters numerous knowledge related to his extensive academic and research career. So, Dr. de Irala, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. Thank you to the Department of Gynecology for inviting me. I'm going to be talking about the impact that education in effectiveness has on young people. And I'm going to be talking about this, in other words, by, well, applying the simile of the picture. I'm going to be talking about the soil, which is where these shoots stem from. But it's interesting, firstly, it's interesting to, well, clarify a couple of definitions. What does it mean to educate and support your progeny? What does it mean when I'm talking about affectivity? Well, we could say that it's the development of the trend to love and to feel different things in a person that it tends towards a sentimental reaction. What does sexual health mean? Well, in 1974, the WHO used this definition, which I found was reasonable for people related to public health. Although the definitions are different nowadays, but I'd like to stick to this one. It's the integration of the somatic, emotional, intellectual, and social elements of the sexual being by means that are positively enriching and which boost the personality, communication, and love. So the presence of the word love is a very important thing. So education in human affectivity and sexuality means that you have to prepare to be fostered and to understand otherness, and you have to get ready to deliver intimacy. In other words, you have to surrender yourself, and you have to get ready for love. So from the University of Navarra, we have 20 years of experience with different channels. And I still remember that this used to be done from the Department of Nursing and then with gynecology. So in other words, there have been several ways of focusing on this. But the thing is that we had a subject that was called human reproduction. And now, apart from that, it's called other human sexuality. And it's a model that has been replicated in different places. For instance, and at the week in Barcelona, they started to deliver classes of this kind. But what kind of content do we give in this subject matter? Well, we talk about anatomy and physiology of human reproduction. We also talk about the 15 first days of life. We talk about stem cells and on human sexuality, physical and psychological aspects, problems and dysfunctions, or the value of waiting, and how to conquer virginity again, pornography, and sexually transmitted infections. And then we have natural family planning too. And obviously, our students know that they are always going to have one of these charts in their final exam. They know that it's the only question that they know that they're going to have to answer.
Hablamos de anticoncepción, de infertilidad.
Talk about NAPRO technology, in vitro fertilization, and other things like adoptions, couple violence management, conflict management, and abortion. Well, this is one of the birds you can find in the south of Australia. And I came across this when I was reading. It's the honeyeater, or regent honeyeater, and it's a bird that is on the verge of extinction. Why? Because the chicks, they do not learn the necessary melodies to find a couple and to establish or to form a couple or to couple. So therefore they are on the verge of extinction. So what ecologists do is they install loudspeakers in forests with these melodies of the birds so that the chicks can learn these melodies and couple and obviously, not become extinguished. And the simile seems to be very interesting because we are not birds, of course, but our youngsters are not learning the necessary melodies. And part of what we do is try to install these loudspeakers in this environment. So this is why I'm putting up the program again that we use in the faculty, and against this backdrop, deep down, all of this is influenced by this melody. And we also provide coaching with integral messages, and they can go to this website, which is something that we have also designed at the Institute of Culture and Society, where there are more than 150 questions on affectivity and sexual education that are answered on only one sheet, because sometimes they find it difficult to read large contents, and always in an integrated manner. So you can see, for instance, you can see some examples. There's an alphabetical index. Your first kiss. Am I in love? Am I not in love? I'm afraid of losing somebody's friendship if I say no. And what are the characteristics of love? But we have all sorts of things, caresses, and anatomy. Well, it's full of different issues, different subjects. And to make them think, we also have this platform with viral videos that we usually release on February the 14th, Lovers' Day. And these are viral because there are more than 150 million viewings of these videos. And these are videos that have been designed so that they can be used in the classrooms of schools and universities to discuss or to address the different issues that are related to love. And also with self-efficacy. This is a term that is very fashionable in public health. People are now talking about empowerment, and I prefer the term self-efficacy, which is all about knowing how to do things, because perhaps the young person knows the theory, but then at the discotheque, in the middle of a dance and after drinking, what can you do and how can you act if somebody makes certain advances? So you need to know how to respond based on your theory. And in this, they talk about the value of waiting, and there are several activities so that these youngsters can think about specific situations and how to avoid them. Well, we have to be aware of our environment. Our environment is a very complex place, and our young people come from this environment. And we have the Island of the Temptations or the Kiss Stand, Cuties on Netflix. Now, I'm not going to show any more things because I feel somewhat shy, but this is invading the lives of our youngsters. So what are we looking for in this education? Well, we obviously want them to know their fertility, and this is an important heading because men and women, so that they have a clear idea that both men and women have pro-maternity and paternity physiologies. It's not only a woman that has that, but the man also has a pro-paternity physiology. And if they are familiar with it, we hope that they will be amazed by it and that they will admire it, because this is what will allow them to look after their fertility, and it's the path towards this personal ecology. And the contents of the classes are opportunities to readdress many things. Every year we receive comments, curious comments. I still remember one that was extraordinary, and it was a young girl who wrote in the evaluation, it was very straight to the point. It said, "I've decided to drop my boyfriend as a result of this subject matter." And then conversations amongst themselves and conversations with us, because students come along because they want to talk more about certain issues. And in the future, well, they remember this knowledge on fertility, and they can move on to its awareness and to plan it in its natural family planning if necessary. And at schools, we've also done work to help them in this field. For instance, in the case of books of third-year pupils, we have certain innovations like presenting a non-closed cycle so that they can learn that menstruation is the beginning of the next cycle, or it could be drawings where you could see that ovulation, the cycle doesn't have 28 days and you ovulate on the 14th day, but rather you have to say, well, this is where ovulation is, so that you can help them think about how they should get to know their fertility better. And obviously then we have the rest of the affectivity indicators, the important ones, the less important ones, and we have to show it to them. And what we don't do in third year is show them or teach them any rules so that they can apply this knowledge, so that they can avoid a pregnancy. Well, this is a general knowledge that later on is going to allow them to use this knowledge for other purposes, and we don't want this to happen to us. So you are at university and you're talking about certain things and you're explaining certain things, and you don't know what your interlocutor thinks. It seems that you're speaking to a slab or a stone and you want some feedback. So this is why what we have done, we have measured the effects of what we're doing on youngsters. For instance, this project that's called Your Life, this an anonymous online survey that any school in the world can carry out. And when people fill this out, the school receives slides with their results and a self-report on what the situation is like.
En el aula. Bien, pues de estos estudios se sacan cosas muy interesantes. Os voy a presentar una solo porque hay poco tiempo. Pero, por ejemplo, ¿cuándo empieza la vida humana? Pues en azul están los colegios que han tenido un contenido más importante sobre la fertilidad. Y veis que aumenta bastante la proporción de jóvenes que hablan de la fecundación como el momento del inicio de.
So they talk about fertilization as the beginning of life, and well, compared to other schools where they haven't perhaps not got into such greater depth as regards discovering what fertility is all about. And also at university, what we have done, we've measured the effect that these subject matters have on a periodic basis, and sometimes the results change according to the profile of the students. But generally speaking, the profile is this. When we ask them, how important is faith for you? Or is faith as important, or is it important for you to take into account in your decisions, in your life decisions? Anyway, well, here you can see that it's 30 plus 23. More or less half of these people say that it's a lot or quite a lot. But the interesting thing is, when does life start? Well, these are university students. Most of them are studying medicine. They know more. But it's interesting to see post-test in blue that we can see that there's an increase in right answers when they decide that life starts during fertilization. And, well, abortions too, it's interesting to ask them. So those that say, yes, I'm always in favor of abortions, or under certain circumstances I would be in favor, well, instead of 85 pre-test, it goes down to 59% post-test. So post-test means after having studied the subject matter.
Que te dicen nunca.
Proportion of those who say never, I would never abort, from 14.8 to 14.4. We've seen interesting effects.
Sobre la pregunta.
As to the question that I would like to ask the medicine students, there are other days when we can say that pregnancy is impossible. The medical students are used to thinking in that we can nearly never say never in medicine. Everything is possible. But if you ask that and they don't dare to answer in a categorical manner, the proportion of those who say yes, there are totally infertile days in the cycle, goes from 37.7% to 93% after having followed this course. Is the symptothermic method reliable? Yes. These are measurements that we've done to see if we are reaching our goals. As to mechanism of action, I would like to comment on this paper that we have published in the Contraception Journal about what do women know about the mechanisms of action of certain contraceptive drugs or systems, and what is their opinion on the fact that the physician tells them this information or not. You can see in this slide different countries. We've done a European study as well. But the first column in gray is the rate of women who know, all the percentage of women who know all the mechanisms of action of the pill, the intrauterine device, and the day after pill. It's a relatively low proportion of women who know that the post-fertilization mechanisms of action are possible in certain methods. The second column is what percentage of women say that they would like to know it if it were so. You can see that the proportion is quite high, around 70-80%, in Spain 80%. Independently of what I decide to do with these methods, I would like the physician to tell me about it. And then finally, the last column in gray is the proportion of women who say that they would not use those methods if they knew that this mechanism of action is there. And this is made us make a call towards a good informed consent from the physicians. One thing is that the user, the woman, is free to use or not a method. Another thing is that you should inform very well about the possible mechanisms of action. And this is an important content in those situations of education of affectivity and the university. Those who are going to be physicians, it's very important for them to know those data. Without further ado, ending, reminding you, the honey eater, hoping them to learn how to sing in order to be extinguished, is the same work that we have to do with our youngsters. We have to teach them the melodies of love so that the love is not extinguished. Thank you very much. And in fact, thanks to these courses, thanks to this affective education, this is the field to be grown so that we really have sprouts. Thank you very much, Doctor. It has been an excellent lecture. We've learned very much, and many questions arise. I encourage the participants to include their questions through the web of the Congress, and in that way we can convey them to all our speakers at the end of their presentations.